Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ground Pass podcast. You have just me today, Anastasia. This is going to be our year in review, fashion and style edition, with a little bit of culture sprinkled right in. I was supposed to do this podcast with Jessica Schiffer of Hardcourt, but holiday season, scheduling. I've been on the road for a long time, so we just couldn't quite get it to work. And it's Monday, and we need an episode out on Monday. So I'm recording this by myself. I hope you enjoy. But there is a little segment that I did with the one and only Kaya Courtside. If you follow us on social media, you would have seen her posts from the UTS Finals in London. She is a new contributor to Ground Pass Podcast. Wow, we have contributors now, but she's a new contributor to the podcast. She will be going to tournaments for us in Europe. So excited for what 2026 is going to bring. I will be talking about also some news that has happened in and around tennis over the last couple of weeks that we probably haven't talked about on the podcast yet. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Okay, first things first, before we get into the conversation that I had with Kaya, if you have not listened to our Meet the Professionals episode with Nick McCarville that was released last week, stop what you're doing. You can always come back to this episode, but go check that episode out. It was so great. We recorded that episode during the Cincinnati Open this past summer. And it was just a great conversation. And even when I was listening back to it while I was editing, I just thought, wow, so many great pointers and tips that even I could use. So if you're ever interested in what it's like to be a tennis presenter, because mostly what Nick does is he presents on court at tournaments, check that episode out. Really great tips and tricks if you have anyone or you know anyone looking to get into a career in tennis, send it their way. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill. Like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on a podcast player of your choice, I just want to say thank you guys. I think I requested a few weeks ago that I think we had 17 ratings on Apple Podcasts, and I was hoping we could get to 20 by the end of the year, and you guys did it. Last I checked, we were at 21 ratings. Some of you have left also additional comments, which have been great to read. So keep those coming if you're listening to us on a podcast player of your choice. It really does help the podcast and people looking for a tennis podcast to, listen to and watch. Okay, so let's dive into the conversation that I had with the one and only Kaya Courtside. Kaya is going to be contributing to the Ground Pad podcast she started officially, but she'll get right into the nitty gritty of it next year, going to European tournaments. I think I've covered tournaments here in the States, taking you on site to many, many tournaments in the States. But we want to branch out a little bit and take you to tournaments in Europe as well. Definitely starting in the UK because Kaya lives in London. So that is where we will start all of that coverage. I really hope you're excited for that. I'm excited for that. I cannot wait to just dive into all of that and learn more about those tournaments because I've never been myself. Nick might be going to some tournaments too, but between Nick and Kaya, we will cover a lot more European tournaments. Kaya covered the UTS Finals for us, which is an exhibition tournament. It doesn't count for points in the main tour, but it is sort of its own tour onto itself. So let's get into the conversation with Kaya about the UTS Finals. Hello, ground passers, and welcome to this little segment all about exhibitions. I am joined by Kaya, and we've had a pretty fun kind of week and a half of exhibition season. So we're going to catch up a bit, talk about that, and there's still more exhibitions to come. And Kaya, I kind of want to ask you, this isn't in the questions that I sent you, but I'm going to ask you about a certain exhibition that has a lot of people talking, and we will see how it goes. But how are you?
Yeah, all good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been traveling a lot, working on a special project for ground passers. So stay tuned for that coming in the new year. Super excited to share all of that. But you got to go to the UTS Finals in London for ground pass. That was new for us. We haven't had anyone collaborate with ground pass yet other than it's just been Nick and I, so that was great. I loved all your content. But what was that event like to start?
It was really fun. It was so, so fun. I went last year, actually, so seeing it behind the scenes this time was a whole different experience. I think obviously the difference is that it's way more relaxed than any other tournament and exhibition, I think, anyway. All the fun rules, people can just walk around and like whenever they want. It can get a bit annoying if you're sat down, but if you're behind the scenes, it's really helpful. Yeah, no, it was really fun. I had the best time. It was my first time, obviously, going behind the scenes, so it was super interesting.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, for someone who has never been to a UTS tournament, you talked a little bit there about like fans being able to move around and all of that stuff. But what is the environment like? Like if you've only been to sort of Wimbledon or the US Open, what should you expect going to a UTS tournament?
It's quite hectic. It's not like at all. I would say, as I said, you're allowed to walk around in between points literally whenever. You can have food in the stands, the drinks as well. So, I mean, completely different. Yeah, completely different vibe. But it's very loud as well. So, probably bring like earplugs or something. I had to. Super loud music all the time. But yeah, I think that also makes it really fun because, yeah, it's so different. So,
So, I mean, I guess because the UTS tour is trying to be an alternative type of tour to fans. And I think they've said that their mission is to sort of bring younger fans into the sport. What do you think of that mission? And do you think they're like, are they attracting a different sort of crowd than maybe a Wimbledon or something like that?
I think so. I mean, obviously, compared to Wimbledon, the tickets are also a lot cheaper. So I think more people can definitely afford to go. There's not a ballot. You can just get online, buy them. You could actually buy them literally like 2 days before the tournament as well. Um, so I think for sure there was a lot of young people there, which was really nice. And also, obviously, it's in London, it's in East London, so it's not super far for most people. Yeah, I think it definitely did bring a new audience in and hopefully continues that way.
Do you think the players, because you were behind the scenes for this a bit, do you think the players kind of enjoyed this kind of different vibe as well than they're usually used to?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, from what I asked, because got to ask them stuff was really really fun. I think they do enjoy it for sure. They do find it quite distracting at times, the atmosphere, but I feel like they're into it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey guys, if you're listening to this and you've been to UTS, let us know what you think. I've never been to UTS before. There was a tournament just before the US Open one year, but I couldn't go. So I'm hoping that they do it again just so I can like experience what it's like. But it seems that they're leaning more into sort of making the matches quicker. It feels more sort of like a baseball game where you can like move around, do whatever you want, like just and then the tennis is just happening in the background. So that's definitely an interesting concept for sure. So let us know what you think. And the scoring is different too, correct?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I think
really
they were,
confusing. I think it's actually still
yeah.
confusing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm like, when I think I understand it, then I actually don't really understand it still.
Yeah.
So yeah, really confusing. From what I gather, there's 4 quarters, maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I could not tell you.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that because I think I remember once watching sort of like an interview explaining, the UTES scoring, and they wanted to just go with like 1, 2, 3, 4, to make it easier than sort of 15, 30, 40 deuce, But it's funny that people complain a lot about like, oh, I wish tennis scoring was easier. I think it's easy. The moment you kind of like get it, it's just a different term for 1, 2, 3, 4 is 15, 30, 40 deuce and going on from there. I almost feel like losing that novelty of tennis and how it's different is diminishes it a little bit. I don't know what you think.
I think so. But I also think, as we said, with attracting new audiences, if people that don't really know much about tennis go into this thinking, what can I expect here? And then they see rules like that and then the scoring like that, it can get really confusing. It's confusing for me. So I don't know. I think it's fun. I think it's really different, and I wouldn't change it necessarily because it is so different and it's such a different experience. But yeah, it is. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. Well, let's talk about a little bit covering the event itself, because this was the first time you were behind the scenes covering a tournament. What was that like for you? Because we were texting back and forth, which was so fun and interesting. But what was your first experience of covering a tennis tournament?
It was quite surreal because I didn't expect to be behind the scenes so early on in my content career, you could say. I'm kidding, by the way. But yeah, it was crazy. I went in there, we got the passes, and they kind of just said, yeah, so go into the media room, through the door, down the hallway. And I was like, what am I doing here? So you walk through the court, walk to the media room, and then there was just a bunch of people with really big cameras in there, obviously the setup. It was a lot. I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. But I feel like as time went on, I kind of began to understand the kind of structure that they had there. Obviously, I'm guessing it's different at every single tournament and expo, but then suddenly there was like a player in front of me and I was like, wait, I have to ask them a question. Now it's like my turn and I have to ask them, I have to like speak to them. What do you mean? They weren't here 2 minutes ago and now they are, and now I have to speak to them. There was, yeah, not a whole lot of prep that I could have done there. They did let us know. Actually, we had like a group chat, like a media group chat, which was super helpful. So then anyone from, I guess, the workers would let us know, oh, blah 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 is on his way to the media room now, which was very helpful because before I joined that group chat, I had no idea what was happening. And I don't know if is it a thing in every like tournament that you've gone to? Is there like a media group chat? Okay,
Yes.
that's good. It's very
Yes.
helpful.
Yeah, so and it's so interesting. I know, like, for a lot of our listeners, this is a little bit of sort of behind the scenes, but it's fun to share sometimes, like, what it's like. And I think your first experience of a tennis tournament was exactly my first experience of a tennis tournament. People don't tell you anything. So don't think you're the only one. It's like they're just like, yeah, go down there. That's the media room, whatever. There's nothing. I remember my first media tournament, so there and I think I was very, very lucky. My very first media tournament was Indian Wells. So
Okay,
that was,
that's crazy.
I went all the way up really quickly. No, but no one tells you about the group chat. You're just like on your own floating around, and then I heard a whisper about like someone be like, oh, in the text chat. I was like, what's that? How do I get on that? But then you're right. Once you get on it, it's great because they like, you know, tell you when this person's coming, when that person's coming. And it's super helpful too, because I mean, I don't know what the setup is like in UTS, you can tell me, but for example, with Indian Wells, it's a big site. The courts are everywhere. So you might be like watching a match somewhere and then they're like, Iga Swiatek will be in the press conference room in 10 minutes, and you have to like book it to the media center in order to make it on time. So depending on how big the tournament is, that media chat can be everything.
I can only imagine how difficult that was because I struggled and there was only one court and it was so small. The whole arena was so tiny. So, like, having to go from the court to the media seats because I wanted to get a better view, take better content, then having to walk down. Then it's like Alex Divin will be in the press room in 2 minutes. And I was like, what the hell? I have to hurry up then. So then you have to get there. And it's a lot. So I can only imagine if there were more courts than one, I would be even more stressed. It feels like it's very back to back. I don't know if you felt like
Yeah.
that. It's very like, you have to take content, and then you want to take like you want to have a better angle, for example, and then it's like, wait, Alex Levinov is going to the press room in 2 minutes, so you have to like book it over there, and then you have to come back to take more content of all the other players, and it's like you can't really breathe. So yeah, I mean, thankfully the arena was very small, but it was still very very hectic, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, those first few days of a tournament, like the first early rounds where they're like, all the players are there, everyone's playing, matches are back to back, interviews are back to back, you can feel like a chicken, like with no head. Like it's crazy. And I think over time, I kind of learned how to prioritize what was important and needed because, you know, a lot of times you're by yourself at a tournament. You don't have like a crew of people. Like, especially at our size, ground pass, we are very baby, we were very tiny. So it's usually just me. And it can be tough, like covering everything. But it's it's interesting. So if you guys have any questions, maybe we'll do a Q&A one day of like behind the scenes of a tennis tournament. So drop your questions in the comments and we will definitely talk about that. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can email us or leave us a rating with your comment in there and I will find it. It's kind of been like hot and heavy exhibition season here in the States. Like last year, we had the tennis night out at Madison Square Garden, and that was pretty much it. There was also the Charlotte Invitational, but that was it. This year was just a back to back to back. You had the Atlanta exhibition, then you had Charlotte again, then you had a new exhibition in New Jersey, which was called Tennis on the Rock. MSG came back, so there was also tennis at Madison Square Garden. And then there was the Miami Invitational. So much happening in the States. It's really, I don't know what you think. Maybe we should start here. I think in general, exhibitions are great. It's a different type of tennis tournament. It's more chill, you know, it's more free. It's not for points. I feel like the players can be more fun and you can almost get to know the players' personalities better. And I know we had a whole episode breaking down exhibitions, which is one of our most views episode because it seems like tennis exhibition is a bad word in this sport, which I don't know why. What are your thoughts in general about tennis exhibitions?
Well, I agree with you. Literally everything said, no notes. I think they're so fun. They're so fun. And it's so much easier, as I said before, to get tickets to them. And they're a bit more cheap. You can still see loads of top players there. And you don't have to most often travel super, super far to another country because they seem to be like kind of all over the world. I love them. I think they're really fun. They're nice thing to do in the off season. And yeah, I guess the players are more relaxed, but some still do take it a bit seriously. When there's still money on the line, they take it very seriously and they get a little upset when they lose. So fair enough.
You know what? That is such a great point because so many people, when they tell me they're like, oh, I don't like exhibitions because it's for nothing. I'm like, a lot of these players take it so seriously. Think about the Laver Cup. So many of them take pride in sort of like defending their part of the world. You know what I mean? And winning the tournament for Europe or winning it for the world or like for like what you said at UTS, like Andre Rublev took it serious, okay? He wanted to win that. He wanted to win that. So, yeah, I feel like it depends on the player how seriously they take an exhibition. But when people just blanket statements say, oh, it's not for nothing, the players don't care, I think that's just a little bit misguided because at that point, I'm sort of like, oh, you've never watched an exhibition before because a lot of these players take it very seriously. I was at the Miami Invitational this year instead of Madison Square Garden, which would be my home exhibition, but I was in Florida during the Miami Invitational. So I went to that and it was their first year putting it on and it was very chaotic. So many people have messaged me and they were like, oh my goodness. Cause so the players who were at the Miami exhibition, it was Joao Fonseca and Carlos Alcaraz, and then Amanda Anisimova and Jessica Pagula. And I've posted some interviews from there. There's still more videos coming, guys, but we are a one-man band, as I have said, small team. So it takes a minute to get all the videos out. But everyone was like, oh my goodness, you were so close to the players. And I was like, I did not have an option. The place, I don't know about UTS, but the place that we had to interview was, I mean, it was so tiny. Like, I had my phone up interviewing Carlos, and there was a wall behind me. Like, there was no. There was no room. So sometimes this is how it is at these exhibitions, especially for a new exhibition. They haven't organized a tennis event before. So the Miami Invitational happened at a baseball stadium. I've posted photos of it. It looks odd. What
I've
did you
seen.
think?
I mean, it's so hideous. Like, it's like, did you guys even try? Did you even try? Please. When I saw that picture, I was like, there's no way.
And it's because obviously a baseball stadium is much bigger than a tennis stadium. So when you put a court in a baseball stadium, it's so tiny. It looks so tiny, and then the audience could only be on one side of it. So that was interesting. You know what was also though crazy? So it was held at the Miami Marlins stadium. So the Miami Marlins are a baseball team. They're the Miami baseball team. It was pretty crowded. Like there were tons of people there, obviously, a lot of Brazilians there to support Joao Fonseca. And I was asking the crew who usually just work for the Marlins events, and I was like, oh my God, so what is this crowd like? Because, of course, the tennis, it was like just a quarter of the stadium that was filled because that's the back of it. You couldn't like put people there. They wouldn't even see any tennis. And they were like, oh no, this is the largest crowd we've ever had here before. And I was like, what?
That's really weird.
So
They can't fill up the
apparently,
stadium.
huh?
They can't.
They can't fill up the stadium for the baseball. Apparently, the Marlins team is not as popular. They're not a winning team, I guess. They were saying that when, for example, the Yankees come to play the Miami Marlins in Miami, they're more Yankee fans than they are Marlin fans. So that was a funny anecdote. But yeah, it was a very odd setup. But what I will say is there were tons of people. Like it was so packed. I've seen like, at quote unquote regular tournaments. Like I've been to other tournaments that were not that packed, but because people like these players, so they show up and they want to watch, and it was fun. And Ronaldo was there. Like it was a very good, happy party vibe. But you could just tell they hadn't put on a tennis tournament before, so there were just some odd things that I was just like, maybe next year will be better and they'll figure out maybe a better setup. I think if they had put the bleachers on the side, if they were taller, so that it could just be more enclosed instead of this sort of like, it just felt like odd to just put a tennis court in the middle of a baseball field. It was, yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, it looks so random.
Yeah.
Planned. Well, in terms of the media room, yeah, also very small at UTS. There were barely any chairs, so I had to just sit on someone's jacket essentially. Well, on a chair that had someone's jacket on it. And I was like, I don't even care anymore because I have to sit down. In terms of the actual space where the players were interviewed, it was in a corner with the backdrop, a soft light, and then the UTS, camera. So that was like sectioned off. There was like honestly a meter of space. But other than that, it was very packed. Very
Yeah.
packed.
Yeah. Seems like all of these tournaments are the same, but now that you have covered your very first one, have we scared you away, or are you excited for the next one?
No, I'm so excited. I really can't wait for the next one, whatever it may be. The only thing that's scary is actually interviewing players that have lost. That terrified me. That was really scary because the way they look at you, I'm just like, I'm so sorry for even speaking to you. Don't want to name any names, but it was really hard and scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the crazy thing about tennis that, because a lot of times when they lose, they're coming right off court to the interview. So it's like there's no even break a lot of times. We saw all the stuff that happened with Arena Sabalenka and all of that after the Roland Garros. And it's a thing I think maybe people don't realize, but if a tennis player is requested, win or lose, they have to come to the interview. Like that's just what the rules are. And a lot of times when they lose, they come to their interview right off court. And it is pretty tough asking someone, so you lost that match. How do you feel? How do you feel about that? And some players are better than others, but again, it's like, what do you expect people to do when they lose a match? Be happy about it and smile and answer questions. So I wish people would give tennis players more grace when they're being interviewed after a loss, because it's a really, really, really tough thing to do. So yeah, that's definitely a tough part of it.
I mean, I 100% agree. I wasn't expecting them to be like, jumping around happy. However, with UTS, so that was on the Friday, the first day I went. The next day they would be playing again. So
Mm,
I'm like, guys, please, like this is not that serious. You guys will be playing, and yeah, I wanted to kind of ask more fun questions so that it's not super serious and maybe loosen them up a bit. But I don't think that really worked. And that's okay. It's not gonna always work. That's fine. But it was terrifying nonetheless. I was like, I
yeah.
don't think I want to interview the losers anymore. I literally said, I'm like, I actually refuse because it was too much. And then I did it on Sunday and I was like, I'm not doing this. Only the winners. I can't do it. Congrats to everyone that can. It's not for the weak.
Kaya said only winners. She only talks to winners, guys.
Full stop, period.
If you don't win, she's not talking to you.
I'm
So
not talking to you.
sorry.
Fine.
Oh my
But it was then.
goodness.
Yeah.
Well, Kaya, thank you for joining me for this little quick catch up on exhibition season. Again, there are a ton of exhibitions coming up, including the Battle of the Sexes. And I don't know what you think, Kaya, but for me, I tend to sort of be the sort of person where if something's not for me and I don't have interest in watching it, I'm just like, fine, great. Let it happen. It's okay. I heard about the Battle of the Sexes, which is it's a reimagining of the original Battle of the Sexes, which was a match held in the 70s against Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. And it was very much a statement on, sort of equality and women's sports. But this is more sort of exhibition style, all for fun, and it's going to be between Arena Sabalenka and Nick Kyrgios, and it's being held in Dubai. I think the date is December 28th. If I'm wrong, I will leave it on the screen somewhere or put it in the show notes of this podcast episode. But when I heard about it, I was like, okay, fun, cool, not for me. I probably won't watch it, or at least I won't like look out for it and wait for it to happen. But it's definitely been in the news a lot lately. I hear it's going to be aired on the BBC, which is a big deal. Like, I think only Wimbledon is on the BBC in the UK. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Are you seeing it more as some sort of statement, or is it just an exhibition?
See, I feel like they're trying to make a statement, and that's
Mm,
what I don't like because I don't think the statement that they're trying to make is necessarily a good one. I kind of share a very similar opinion to most people online that are kind of against it. I don't feel like it stands for equality when you have people like Nick. I don't really agree with some of the stuff he did. Many things that he's done actually. So he's not one that I would ever watch or listen to or follow or anything like that. I don't have him on my radar at all. Arena, I am a fan. Lately she's been making some bad choices that are very questionable. Personally, I just don't really agree with it. I don't think it should have happened. I feel like if she was going to play anyone, it could have been Sinner. Number
yeah.
one versus world number one. That would make more of a statement than playing someone like Nick. It's just, yeah, it's not for me. I'm not going to be engaging. The fact is in Dubai, I think that kind of just like is the cherry on top of the cake, really. Just everything about it is completely just not what it should be. And it is not doing any justice to what Billie Jean King has done, I don't think. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And that's for me why I'm sort of like, it's happening. Okay, cool. Moving on. Because I feel like if you give it oxygen, it just, you know, perpetuates. So if you're with us on Ground Pass, we're not going to be covering it. I'm sure there are other places you can go to figure out what it is. I have no idea what even channel it's being played here in the States. So I'll probably be doing other things. But yes, thank you, Kaya, again so much for joining me for this little segment here. And, stay tuned, guys. Kaya's going to be in and around the UK doing some fun tournament stuff now that she's in. Now that she's been bitten by the bug of behind the
Yeah,
scenes
not
tennis
going
tournament.
anywhere. But thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Honestly, it was super fun, and I'm so glad that I was able to do it with you guys. Yeah, I'm very grateful. So thank you.
I can't wait for more. So stay tuned and get back to the rest of this episode. Bye, guys. It was really fun talking to Kaya about the behind the scenes of covering this tournament. It can get very tricky. Every tournament is different, but sometimes it's nice talking shop. And let me know if you guys like that. If you want to hear more about the behind the scenes of covering tournaments, let us know, and we will talk more about that on the podcast in the future. And exhibition season is not over yet. It runs all through December and pretty much all year round at this point. Tennis is definitely having a moment, like we talked about in that segment. Battle of the Sexes is coming soon. There's also an exhibition in Macau that will include Jack Draper and Mira Andreeva. World Team Tennis is also coming up soon. And finally, Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner are going to be participating in their first joint exhibition in Seoul in Korea just before the Australian Open season starts. So they're not going to be playing any pre-tournaments for the Australian Open, but they will be playing this exhibition. It'll be interesting to see how they interact together in their very first joint exhibition solo. Okay, let's get into our little review awards show for the tennis style and culture moments of 2025. I have different categories here. I'm going to be looking at my screen. So if I look down, that's what I'm looking at. And while I'm going through these, think about your answers. Let us know in the comments, send us a message, an email, find us on social media. Let us know what your winners are for these different categories, starting with the best dressed player of 2025. I'm going to have a men's and women's category here. Now, I feel the women were easier, so let's start with them. Coco Gauff, her Miu Miu collaboration, she had a different kit for every single tournament she played. A lot of them were some of my favorites of the year and is definitely high on the list of best dressed. Now, this might be a surprise, but maybe not if you're paying attention. Ayla Tomljanovic is one of the nominees for Best Dressed Player of 2025. Now, her clothing sponsor is not well known. They're called Original Penguin, but some of her outfits from 2025 have been fantastic. She actually did a little reel or carousel post on Instagram of her favorite 2025 looks. A lot of them super unique, very different, not the sort of cookie cutter tennis outfit that you see out and about on court, high Nike, but really, really great stuff. And they looked awesome on her. So Ayla Tomljanovic is our second nominee. And our last nominee has to be Marta Kostyuk. Wilson doesn't miss. Every time they put out a new dress, kit, whatever it just is awesome. And Marta Kostyuk wore some of my favorite Wilson looks this year, specifically the one she wore at Indian Wells, which was sort of a play on that sort of purple sunset. Gorgeous, gorgeous kit. Now, to the nominees on the men's side before we talk about the winners. Number one, Lorenzo Musetti. And only if for the look he wore during the clay season before Roland Garros, which was a collaboration between ASICS and APC, which is sort of a French clothing brand company. It looked like a modern take on a toga, and he had it in two different colors, the white and the navy blue. I still can't pick which one is my favorite. I do think, though, the white one was just perfect. It was something different. It wasn't a regular cut. It was very boxy and billowy. The shorts were short, the perfect length. And it just was so different. And I think it took some time to grow on me. The very first time I saw it, I thought, I don't know about this. But then the more and more I saw it, I was just sold on the entire look, the day and the night version. So that's our first nominee. Second nominee, also in the ASICS family, is Alex de Minaur. He also looked great in the sort of like APC collaboration. He wasn't wearing the cutoff sleeve version. He was wearing the one with sleeves. Again, very boxy. I think, though, Lorenzo Musetti wore it better of the two. But I will say ASICS at the end of the year made this black iridescent kit that was perfect. Like, it's the best thing I've ever seen them make. Jasmine Paolini, who's a female ASICS athlete, she had a great version of it too. But the one on Alex de Minaur looked great as well. He wore it for the year-end finals. I like that all black look, but it had some texture to it. It had that sort of iridescent feel, which I loved. Finally, another surprise maybe for people, Chris Eubanks. Now, we didn't see Chris Eubanks a lot on tour. He was mostly playing challengers and he didn't really stay long during the tournament. He also has recently retired from tennis and is going to go full time as a commentator. Yay, Chris. We love to see that. But Jay Lindbergh, his sponsor, created some awesome kits. Again, kind of like the Ilo Tomjanovic of the men's side, very unexpected colors, cuts, but they always looked great. I also loved their sort of like off court fashion as well. So definitely was part of the nominees for this category. And the best dressed players for 2025, according to me, are Lorenzo Musetti on the men's side and Coco Gauff on the women's side. I think those are the only choices. Like really, truly, let me know in the comments again what your picks are and what you thought. Now, next category, outfit of the year. First look, Coco Gauff at Wimbledon. Man, oh man, did this dress deserve more time. Unfortunately, Coco Gauff lost in the first round of Wimbledon, and she was wearing this dress that New Balance created that looked like, the easiest way to describe it, it was a tennis version of that Madonna's wedding type dress from the 80s. It is gorgeous. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify, I will put pictures up here of all the looks I'm talking about and all the moments so you can take a look as well. But I really think this dress deserved way more time. Second nominee, Adidas at Wimbledon. Adidas at Wimbledon in general crushed. They just crushed it. All of the looks, from the sort of dresses that they had, the walk-on kits. Remember Jessica Pegula wore this sort of like cape that was billowing in the wind. Even their bags that the players walked on court with as well. They had a romper that was really great. Sonia Cartel wore the sort of like shirt and shorts version that was excellent as well. I just think Adidas at Wimbledon crushed it. They went back to sort of that vintage look in their archive, and they really did create something that just wasn't all white. I know it's pretty hard at Wimbledon to create something different because the sort of criteria has to be that the majority of the outfit is white, but with their like little just touches of green piping, is a Wimbledon nailed it. And of course, outfit of the year, last nominee, has to go to the Sunset Wilson dress that Marta Kostyuk wore at Indian Wells. That dress in that setting with the sunsets, the sort of mountains behind, billowing in the wind, it was meant. It was meant for that tournament. But outfit of the year for me, my winner, Coco Gauff at Wimbledon. That dress deserved more time. Maybe we'll see it again sometime soon. Best brand sponsor partnership. We had a lot of brand sponsor partnerships this year, and the first nominee has to go to Musetti and Bottega Veneta. Bottega Veneta are an Italian luxury brand. They mostly make bags and leather goods, and they partnered with Lorenzo Musetti this year, becoming his sponsor on the luxury side for clothing and bags and things like that. And he had two different walkout kit versions of this woven leather jacket that he had, a white version of that he wore at Wimbledon and a black version of that he wore at the US Open. And boy, oh boy, if I could get that jacket. It is one of my most coveted pieces that I saw on court this year. It is way out of my price range at the moment, but it was a gorgeous, gorgeous jacket. And of course, another nominee we have is Coco Gauff and Miu Miu. New Balance and Miu Miu teamed up to create some custom looks for Coco Gauff this year that I think are going to change how collaborations happen in tennis. They hit the ball way out of the park, to quote another sports analogy. But they really did nail it. They had about, I think it was 4 different looks for 4 different tournaments, if I remember correctly. And just everything that came out of it, from the kits to the shoes, it was just such an organic and natural partnership. And having both brands like really partner together so that it didn't seem sort of out of place and just like a sticker or something that was just stuck onto a New Balance kit, or maybe a New Balance logo on something from Miu Miu. It looked like a true collaboration. And I really do think other brands are probably going to look at that success and look to the future and what they can do in the world of tennis, like luxury brands coming in and collaborating with sports brands. Should be interesting. I'm excited to see what might be coming. And my last sort of brand sponsor partnership, I'm going to go with Adidas and Wimbledon. Their Adidas Wimbledon collection, pulling from the archives, giving you that sort of vintage look. I remember seeing all the sort of like promo of that sort of that collection basically. And it was just so great. Like they nailed the promotion, they nailed the photo shoot. It looked great on court. Everything about the Adidas Wimbledon collection was a must have. I didn't get any of the pieces. If they're still available, I might go for it. And my winner, again, Coco Gauff and Miu Miu. They nailed it. I just think they really did set a precedent for what can be done in the future. And if luxury brands are not looking at what Miu Miu did with New Balance, they're dropping the ball. Gucci, looking at you. Let's do better. They might have restrictions with Nike, but it would be nice to see Gucci do something with Nike for Yannick Sinner. That would be great. Louis Vuitton do something with Nike for Carlos Alcaraz. But no, Coco and Miu Miu nailed it for best brand sponsor partnership. Now, cultural moment of the year. This can be very sort of open-ended, and I really want to know what your picks are if you're listening. What storyline shaped the season? Was there a social media trend that you saw that you were like, "Oh, this was it?" Maybe player off-court influence, like what sort of cultural moment really struck a chord for you this year? I have 3 nominees. One, Venus Williams at the US Open. Venus Williams came in with a plan. I love a well curated sort of package. And working with her stylist, she really did, she wore a different outfit for every single match. Not even just tournament, she wore a different outfit every single match. It was well curated, well styled. She came in with a plan, and I love that. I love when sort of fashion and sports can kind of combine like that and actually come out with clothes that are not only functional. So she was able to wear on court, she got really far in doubles, but also make a statement. I'll never forget that sort of like faux, or maybe it was real, I'm not really sure, but the furry racket bag she walked out on Arthur Ashe with for her very first match in that white dress that was sort of a nod to Athea Gibson. Like these are moments that culturally are super important and make a statement, and she knew exactly what she was doing. It was not half-assed. It wasn't like sort of like, oh, what are we going to wear? It was very, very well done. I know I sound like a broken record, but Coco Gauff and Miu Miu, another huge cultural moment this year. I just think, again, just to repeat myself one more time, that collaboration really showed what luxury brands can do in the sport. Take note. And last but not least, this was so different from what we've just talked about so far, but Taylor Townsend at the US Open. Boy, boy, was this a moment for her. Her breakout moment for sure. From the confrontation she had with Yelena Ostapenko that kind of pivoted her into the zeitgeist and just general news. I had people who don't watch a ball of tennis contacting me about what is this Taylor Townsend thing? And I had to explain it. Our video explaining the whole situation is one of our most watched videos ever. like ever on ground pass anywhere. And then she played well in singles, like really played some great matches, getting to the fourth round, second week of the tournament. And yeah, it was definitely her breakout moment this year. Winner, cultural moment of the year for me has to be Venus Williams at the US Open. She just hit it. I like a well curated, sort of thoughtful attempt at saying something, and she really did the most. Her and her stylist nailed everything. In fact, her whole sort of summer, getting wild cards and playing this tournament, it just said a lot. It was just really well done, and that was my cultural moment of 2025. What was yours? We have, okay, next up, tennis photo of the year. The first one has to be the Jasmine Paolini one. Come on. Like, that has to be one of the photos of the year, just because of the way it was. It was just so unexpected. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is the photo of Jasmine Paolini at the US Open where she's holding her racket, and the stencils on her racket match her face and create this sort of like racket mask. Again, I will pop a photo on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube, just so you can take a look. That was one of the photos of the year. This next one, I feel like it was more of a category of photos that almost described the year. And it was the Sinkeraz photo at the end of every match at the net. There are countless photos now of this sort of like hand around shoulder, leaning heads photo of Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. That is from Roland Garros. That is from US Open. That is from Wimbledon. I think they have one also from the year-end finals. But it's this trio of photos that they kind of, sort of make happen, because that's just their way of sort of shaking hands at the net at the end. But it was just so guaranteed that if they were to meet in a final, this photo would be produced at the end of it. And I think it just says a lot about the year in general, at least on the ATP side. It was dominated by these two players and their finals. It was always sort of a countdown to that Sinkeraz final. And this photo became sort of the expected result at the end of every match they had. And the last tennis photo of the year, again, is not really one photo, but a series of photos. And I feel like this year, the year of 2025 of our Lord, was when everyone discovered slow shutter speed. If you've seen these photos that are movement photos, so maybe hitting of a racket or a player jumping or turning or something like that, and it's all blurred and you see these blurred lines, that was everywhere this year. There wasn't a tournament that didn't do like a special carousel of these slow shutter speed photos. So yeah, it did become tedious after a while, but I do have to say it was a signature of the 2025 season. And my photo of the year is the Sinkeraz photo. I just think it's not one photo, it's a series of photos, but I think it really did define the ATP year. What is 2026 going to bring? Just more of those photos? Who knows? Let's see. TikTok meme of the year. Tennis TikTok or meme of the year. This is a fun one. I have to, the number one was the TikTok that Arina Sabalenka and Coco Gauff did post Roland Garros at Wimbledon. So obviously we all know what happened at Roland Garros, where there was the things that Arina said post match that were not exactly, how do you even put it? Like they just weren't complimentary of Coco. She was mostly focused on herself and just said some things that maybe should not have been said out loud post conference. Go back to that episode, we talked about it then, post Roland Garros. But as a result, I think Coco Gauff and Arina Sabalenka, to sort of like clear the air, created this TikTok that became a moment. They filmed it, the tournament filmed it, it became a whole thing. Coco and Arena doing a TikTok. They're both really big on TikTok. So it was bound to happen at some point that they would do a joint one together. Another meme of the year had to be strawberry pasta and those Wimbledon towels. Didn't know about strawberry pasta, had no idea it existed, but it became a part of our vocabulary post Wimbledon. All people could talk about was strawberry pasta. I've never tried it. I probably never will. And attached to that too was Iga Swiatek, who's the one who brought the strawberry pasta into our world. Just her love of the Wimbledon towels. I'm sure she's not the only one, but she definitely was the focus of it, and how she would try and collect as many towels as possible post match. She said she gave those towels to friends. I think she said she only has one right now. And Wimbledon did give her one with her name on it. So I'm supposing that's the one she kept. And finally, the photo that broke the internet. Carlos Alcaraz watching the Davis Cup in his living room. Who knew a photo of your living room could do so well? But it actually did better than his photo of him winning Roland Garros and that trophy for the second time. So people love it. It was a very sort of like innocent moment. I think the focus of that photo is mostly the way all of his trophies are just displayed in the living room so haphazardly, just, like any normal person with trophies would put them up. He definitely is kind of, I think people really just resonated with the very sort of humble surroundings that he was in. And to know that that was his living room, that looks like probably a lot of our living rooms, people related, which was cute. And for me, it was hard not to pick Carlos and the living room photo, but my meme of the year has to be strawberry pasta. It just was something that I'd never heard of that now is part of my permanent vocabulary. So, strawberry pasta it is. Most stylish tournament of the year. Three nominees: Wimbledon, because it's Wimbledon. But again, I just think it's such a classic tournament. All the photos that I saw coming out of Wimbledon of people dressing up to go to Wimbledon, everyone looked so chic with their hats and great. And I know that's not the general, obviously, population of Wimbledon. There are probably people who just, like me, when I go to tournaments, just jeans and a t-shirt, and I go and I just, if I was going, I'd probably just go sit on Henman Hill with some Pims and like enjoy the tennis. But no, some very, very stylish photos came out of Wimbledon. And it just seems like a very sort of like nice tournament where you can dress up and go get some Pims and strawberry and cream. Next, Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo, again, another one that brings out the sort of fashionistas around, especially from the F1 world. I feel like Monte Carlo is one of those that really does show that sort of not collaboration, but the sort of parallel between the F1 and tennis world, both sports that do travel around the world to host their events and stuff. And there are a lot of F1 drivers who live in Monaco who tend to show up at the Monte Carlo Open. And finally, a little bit different, but I would say the US Open is another fun, stylish tournament. Maybe definitely not at the level of Wimbledon, but it does bring out a lot of fashionistas. And I feel like this year, I think it's actually every year, really, to be honest, where people feel like, who are these influencers or famous people who just show up to the US Open to be seen, kind of thing. They dress up and then they go. And I think a lot of people were upset by that. And it might be attached to sort of like how expensive the tickets are these days to go to US Open, because it's become a scene. It's become an event that you go to for a night out, usually. The tennis for some people is very secondary. So, for better or worse, the US Open is a place to be seen. How does the saying go? To see and be seen. That's the US Open these days. It is definitely a scene. And my pick goes to Wimbledon. There's something about Wimbledon that's just sort of like prim, proper, hats, very stylish. But at the same time, I do see a lot of people at Wimbledon too who are just there, dressed in normal clothes, Hemman Hill, enjoying the tennis. But I think there's just something about that sort of like historical part of Wimbledon that makes it a very kind of stylish event to go to. Two more to go here, or actually one and then one prediction. But tennis personality of the year. Who was the tennis personality? The tennis personality of 2025. This is probably going to be a controversial one, so I definitely want to hear what you think in the comments. But my nominees for Tennis Personality of the Year were Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, and Ben Shelton. Aryna Sabalenka this year, she also got new representation this year. And for the first time, I think she was just everywhere. Especially during the US Open was where I noticed it. But every sort of event around the US Open, a pop-up store or something, she was there. Or being promoted. She's become kind of very, like, she's very big already on social media with the TikTok and the Instagram and stuff, but then she released her vlog this year that's following her around the tour. She's definitely become a lot more popular this year and just a lot more in the scene of tennis. New sort of collaborations, new sponsors. Yeah, definitely someone who I think in 2024 was on the cusp. And as a number one tennis player, you were wondering, but she doesn't really get that much publicity. Well, that all blew up this year with her new representation. I thought she was everywhere. Coco Gauff, again, I just think she's always been one of the most popular tennis players around just by name recognition. And when she won Roland Garros this year, it was dialed up like to 20. You know, she was on every late night show. She was at courtside at basketball games, and she's just become someone associated with tennis, very brand name recognizable. And I don't know, she's become very much the face of tennis in the US for sure. So Coco Gauff, I think, definitely up there. And Ben Shelton, he has always been the fun guy, always like entertaining, big, bold. And I think this year he kind of made his stance as wanting to be at the top of the game. And by the end of the season, he got there. He's a top 10 player now, which is crazy to think when you think of him from a couple of years ago. But he's definitely upping his stock in popularity. He now has a blog that he just released as well. So Ben Shelton, nominee for Tennis Personality of the Year. And my winner is Aryna Sabalenka. Sabalenka. It was really, really tight. Like, who do you pick between Aryna Sabalenka and Coco Gauff? Because I think if you were to pick two players who dominated tennis news and world, other than Sinkaraz, I think Sinkaraz did, obviously, but I do think when you think personalities of the year, people who sort of bring something to the sport of tennis and a personality, Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka, definitely. But in 2025, I just think Aryna Sabalenka edged out a little bit with just all the collaborations she was in and all the social media she did. It was definitely upped a level for sure. So those are the big categories. Again, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Really would be interested to know if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, what your picks are for these categories. And my bold prediction, I do have one bold prediction for 2026, and I don't think it's that much of a surprise if you've listened to this whole podcast up until now. And is I think that collaboration between Miu Miu and New Balance will really change things in the world of tennis. We've already seen a lot of luxury brands coming into the sport, but it's always sort of just been on top of. Like, they didn't really sort of really collaborate and sync with the athlete in the way that Coco, Miu Miu, and New Balance did. Like, it became one separate entity almost. And I think a lot of luxury brands are going to look at that and see how can we do better or as well as they did. So that's my one big prediction for 2026. Now, let's break down some news really quick before I wrap up this episode. Big, big, big news came out recently affecting the WTA. The WTA has a new title sponsor in Mercedes-Benz. No longer will it be the Hologic WTA Tour. It will now be, I'll forget the real name. It's sort of like, it's like WTA Tour driven by Mercedes-Benz. I think I actually got it right. That might be it. But still, massive, massive news, I think, for the WTA. They're investing, I think, $50 million a year into the WTA. This is awesome. I think it's really great. And finally, the WTA getting a sponsor that really, I think can take them places. The WTA has sort of been in this sort of limbo land where the funds that they have never quite matched the ATP. And for Mercedes-Benz to come in with this amount of money and sort of splash, I think is really great for the WTA. And not only are they sponsoring the WTA as a tour, they're going to be sponsoring individual tennis players as well. Coco Gauff is one of the first faces of this partnership. Also, I believe Alina Svitolina was already sponsored by Mercedes-Benz. And I think this is just really great. We're going to start seeing that Mercedes-Benz like circular logo on the side of the nets from now on, starting in 2026. And I think I can't wait to see what changes come due to this collaboration. I feel like, first of all, there will be the influx of money, for one. And what will that do to content the WTA produces or sort of events that they put up? It'll be really, really awesome to see. When I saw this, which was news broken by our friend Jessica from Hardcourt, Jessica Schiffer from Hardcourt. Really excited to see where this collaboration goes. Then, sticking with the WTA, now I made a video a while ago, basically during the Madrid Open this year, about the controversy that had come out of the Madrid Open over the years with their sort of, you know, the way they've treated WTA players, for example, the year that they didn't let them speak, the doubles players at the end of their match, at the end of the finals, really, of their match. And then also the years that they had basically models as ball girls. They've had some tricky issues with the WTA. Well, they now have a co-tournament director in Garbiñe Muguruza. Garbiñe Muguruza is a Spanish player, former world number one, two-time Grand Slam champion. She will be now the co-tournament director alongside Feliciano Lopez. He will remain. I've never seen this before, where there are two tournament directors, one for the WTA and one for the ATP, which is, I'm guessing, how they're going to divide and conquer that sort of role. This is a joint tournament, so obviously they could do both sides. Most tournaments just have one tournament director. So it'll be really interesting to see how this goes and if other mixed events will carry on this sort of setup if it works. Maybe Indian Wells will have two, or Miami Open, for example, which both those two tournaments have male tournament directors in Tommy Haas and James Blake. Maybe they will add a female co-tournament director. It's a very interesting concept. We'll see how it goes. I was fascinated by the news, so we'll see. Finally, something that we haven't talked about here on the podcast, Serena Williams might be coming back to tennis. Maybe, maybe not. But basically, the long and short of it is her name was found on the testing list for tennis players who are going to be drug tested. Now, if you're not an active player, I don't know why you would want to be drug tested. In order to play main tour tournaments, you have to be drug tested. And I was very interested actually with something that Andy Roddick said on his podcast in regards to this, where he mentioned that back in the day after he had retired, he wanted to play doubles basically at the US Open. He wanted to play doubles at the US Open with Mardy Fish as Mardy Fish was retiring, and they thought it would be a great way if they played doubles together for a kind of goodbye thing. And he found out then that he could not do that because he hadn't been drug tested for a long time, and you have to be in this tournament. So he didn't do it. Venus Williams, likely to probably maybe retire next year. Wouldn't it be nice if Serena Williams, her sister, played doubles with her to kind of close out her career? Possible. Who knows? Could be a thing. So that's what I think is happening here. She has come out to say that I'm not coming back to the tour. Everyone calm down. But I think there is a possibility that she's just doing this so that she can play a few tournaments with Venus Williams in doubles as she wraps up her career. Food for thought. Let me know what you think. And then finally, what is coming up? Tennis is starting, it's been the off season. Ooh, by the way, if you've gotten all the way to the end, here's a little surprise tidbit for you. You might be wondering where I've been and why it was so hard, like setting up this podcast interview with Jessica and why it didn't work out. Well, I've been in Boca Raton, Florida for the past 2 weeks recording a little tennis documentary. Now, if you've been following Ground Pass from the beginning, you know we have done a documentary before. It was only one episode, it was very short. And it was me attending my very first challenger, and we called it the Real Challengers. I will link it below in the show notes or somewhere up here on YouTube. And we got to talk to a bunch of players. It's where I first met Elias Vaziri, where I first met Ethan Quinn. Also, we got to interview Jack Pennington Jones, Nishesh Basavareddy as well. So it was a great experience, and just wanted to sort of give an idea of what a real challenger was like. So that was a year ago. And now we're going to be releasing a new documentary series starting January, hopefully January 18th. January 18th is the day that we're going for. I'm super excited. We're thinking multiple episodes here. I don't want to give it all away, but for you who have listened all the way to the end and to this podcast, what you should do is go follow the new Instagram and TikTok. I'm going to do both. We'll have an Instagram and TikTok for this documentary series. It's called Off Season. It's one of the biggest projects. No, it is the biggest project that Ground Pass has done so far. I'm super proud of the work that we did in Florida. I cannot wait to get it all edited and show it to you. And, it's in the line of basically what we have been doing here on Ground Pass, which is telling the stories that matter. It's not always who wins, but it's how they do it, how they get there, the work involved in becoming a pro tennis player. And that's just kind of what we wanted to do, is tell that story. So we'll be following around a group of players in their off season and showing what the off season is like, what they do. Hopefully you'll get to know these tennis players better. And again, super, super excited for you to see this. The series will have different Instagram and social media, just so that our Ground Pass social media doesn't really just get bombarded by all of that footage, but the show itself will be on our Ground Pass YouTube channel. So subscribe, like and subscribe to our Ground Pass YouTube channel so you'll be the first to know when that series is live. Hope you're excited. Something else that is happening this week, Next Gen tennis is coming back. We are in the middle of the preseason. It's hot and heavy. Next Gen is happening this week. The dates are December 17th to the 21st. I will do a little sort of short reel video breaking down who the players are. Next Gen is one of my favorite tournaments every single year because, again, you get to know these new up and coming players. Although one of the players who's been there has been doing it, I think this is Lorna Tien's second year, but Lorna Tien is in the draw for Next Gen. So it'll be excited to watch. I feel like this new schedule of where the Next Gen is going to be, so it's kind of like just before Christmas, because a lot of players are already in the middle of their preseason, it is actually kind of a good preseason event, especially for the young players to sort of like see where they're at. So excited to see what comes out of that tournament. And yeah, that is all I have for you today. So as always, thanks for listening. Wherever you're listening from, please leave us a rating, like and subscribe, do all of the good stuff. So excited for what's coming for 2026. The United Cup, one of my favorite tournaments ever, is soon. Cannot believe it. We have 2 more episodes in the second season of Ground Pass. Can you believe it? The next episode you're going to get after this is a big coaching episode. big coaching episode with Brad Stein, the coach of Tommy Paul. Nick and I got to sit down and talk to him for about an hour. We got really nitty gritty into coaching. We have been promising you guys a coaching episode forever, it seems like. So it's nice that we got Brad Stein on the pod to talk all about coaching. And then our very last episode of season 2 is going to be our preview of the United Cup. Nick will be back. We'll do a big, nice preview for the United Cup. And that'll be it for season 2. And it will be time for season 3. How time flies. Anyway, guys, it's been great. Thanks so much for listening. It does mean the world. And I'll see you all next episode. Bye, guys.